Thanks everyone for joining this episode of our webinar series on best practices in eDiscovery. Today's session is focused on the rapidly evolving role of smartphone forensics in eDiscovery. My name is Jeff Fugit. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Lexby, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. It is good to see most law firms returning to some semblance of normal operations. Fortunately, we've been able to help our clients by supporting their mobile connected legal teams with our cloud-based eDiscovery platform as they pivoted to work from home, dealing with COVID. We've seen the COVID pandemic also impact the use of smartphones and has increased usage as more employees rely on mobile technologies to get their jobs done. And we'll go into more detail on that. A little bit about our webinars. Our webinars take place monthly and cover a variety of relevant eDiscovery topics, trends, best practices, and strategy. We've had tens of thousands of webinar participants over the past year, and we've got limited seating for these events, so be sure to register early for the sessions that are of interest to you. If you have technical issues or questions, please email webinars@lexby.com and we'll address those right away. Our webinars are available online at lexby.com for viewing via streaming video or downloadable as a PDF presentation or MP3 podcast. You'll find this webinar and a complete listing of other webinars at lexby.com. To be notified of future live and on-demand events, please email us at webinars@lexby.com or follow us on LinkedIn. So a little bit about us. We're based in Austin, Texas, and we provide a very affordable cloud-based eDiscovery platform and services. We specialize in equipping organizations with an eDiscovery solution that gives them full control over the eDiscovery process, DIY capabilities, and incredibly fast performance. We're the industry's most affordable, full-featured DIY cloud-based eDiscovery platform. We're the industry's fastest eDiscovery processing and document review platform. We deliver the industry's fastest return on investment per a study that was done by G2 Crowd. We've got a team of experienced eDiscovery specialists and expert consultants who are all ACED certified. And if you want a demonstration of our platform, simply email us at sales@lexby.com and we'll get that scheduled for you. Our guest speaker today is Nick Marrero, lead digital forensics examiner at Lexby. He is a digital forensics expert and consultant with over 10 years experience in digital forensics. He's got a Bachelor of Science in Computer Forensics from Bloomsburg University of Pennsylvania. He is a certified Cellebrite operator and certified Cellebrite physical analyst. And for those of you who are not familiar with Cellebrite, it is the gold standard for forensic collections for smartphones. Before I turn it over to Nick, I'm going to cover a few of the trends and dynamics that we're seeing with smartphones. That's really driving the discussion today. So smartphone adoption is closing the gap with 85% of Americans owning a smartphone, according to the Pew Research Center. And there are several factors that are fueling this growth, including COVID, lower cost smartphones, and more capable devices. So I'm going to go into the details of those. Smartphone prices. So 2020 and 2021 has seen a shift in smartphone prices. Price elasticity of demand has impacted the smartphone manufacturers as unit sales in 2019 started to stall. So Google, Samsung, and Apple all responded and have added models that are sub $500. So the Pixel 4a, Galaxy S20 FE, and the iPhone SE, all on this slide, are all highly capable devices, and all of them come in at under $500. So that segment is really starting to fuel more smartphone adoption, and I'm going to go into why that's important. So the next slide here, advanced smartphone features. Smartphone evolution in terms of the technology itself is really fascinating. So we've seen advanced cameras now being deployed in smartphones. There's the concept of this periscope capability where they actually take a zoom lens and turn it sideways and utilize a mirror. Therefore, they can actually fit that camera inside the smartphone, as you can see in that diagram. And so we're actually seeing a lot more images and pictures in eDiscovery, and the quality of those images and the quality of the pictures is very high and high resolution. With 5G, we're seeing a massive improvement for download speeds, which means more data And with the last bullet point on this slide, with most smartphones having at least 64 gigs of storage, data is more portable than ever. We see most smartphones where we're doing collections are actually larger than that. So we see it with 256 gigs and some that have over a terabyte of storage. So these devices, not only do they have faster network speeds, but they have much more storage capabilities than before. Ultra wideband chips. So this is very interesting. Ultra wideband chips provide the ability for very granular location-based services. So now you can pinpoint the location of that device, and with certain apps and certain services that are on the phone, you're now able to identify the exact location of that device at any given point in time. So with that also, we're seeing much more location-based data in eDiscovery. So that's important to know, important to keep that, at least in the back of your mind as you're dealing with your custodians, if location-based data is important to your matter. So why are the shifting smartphone markets and features important? Well, a big reason is shadow IT. So in a recent study, you can see 80% of workers admit to using SaaS applications at work without getting IT approval. So the vast majority of those SaaS applications are sitting on smartphones and are enabled by smartphones. Shadow IT cloud usage is estimated to be 10x the size of known cloud usage. So it's so easy to just download Dropbox to your smartphone and enable data portability. It's easy to log in to your email client from your smartphone, your corporate email client from your smartphone, download attachments, move them over to Dropbox. 35% of employees claim they need to work around their company's IT security policy to get their job done. And then 67% of teams have introduced their own collaboration tools into an organization, while Slack and Microsoft Teams are the two leading collaboration platforms. There are a bunch of others. So understanding, what the makeup is, and not only the quality and character of the custodians, but understanding their use of technology, utilizing data mapping is really important to understand what the ESI landscape looks like. And then 55% of executives rely on their smartphone as their primary work device versus a laptop or PC. And really, executives and the C-suite is what drove BYOD, which is bring your own device programs, when the Apple iPhone first came out. We're seeing a lot more knowledge workers and executives relying on their smartphone as their primary work device. So in addition, we see sanctioned apps deployed on smartphones, including Zoom and Slack, both of which can be rich sources of evidence. So you need to make sure to take these points to heart when you're engaging the custodians and utilize a data map to identify the critical sources of ESI. Now I'd like to ask for your participation in a couple of polling questions before I turn it over to Nick. Our first polling question is, are you utilizing data mapping when discussing with custodians what the ESI landscape looks like for your matters? And while you're answering that, I'd like to thank you for participating in our polling questions today. And our next polling question, are you seeing an increase in smartphone collections for your matters? All right, and without further ado, I'll turn it over to Nick Marrero. Nick?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name's Nick Marrero, and I'm the lead digital forensic examiner at Lexby. Today, I'll be discussing an overview of smartphone forensics. We will start the webinar by going over digital forensic best practices and the forensic workflow, and taking a look at smartphone growth and evolution over the years. We will then dive into mobile device forensics, their preservation, extraction, analysis, and reporting. The purpose of this webinar is to provide you with an understanding of mobile forensics and show you just how much data can be extracted and analyzed from your everyday smartphone. When it comes to digital forensics, best practices are taken very seriously. Every step of the forensic process plays a very important role in ensuring the data that has been collected is completely forensically sound and admissible in court. Just like most fields, documentation is crucial. The documentation for any forensic collection usually starts and ends with the chain of custody form. We'll be taking a closer look at this form in a few slides. Photographing the evidence is also important. We want to ensure the device we received and analyzed is in the same condition throughout the process. Documenting any deformities, cracks, serial numbers, or just the general look of the device helps to guarantee that we're, number one, working on the correct device, and also if any issues with that device arise down the line, we can prove we received the device in a certain condition and returned it in the same way. This brings us to evidence handling. Most devices worked on in the forensic field can be categorized as fragile. So examiners make sure they're handling the devices with care, storing them in proper, secure locations, and use the appropriate tools during examinations. These steps are often memorialized within the documentation, either on the COC or the report. Write blockers are devices that act as a bridge between the evidence and the examiner's machine to ensure no data is written or changed on the device. Write blockers can either be physical devices that you plug into the drive and then into the examination device, or it can be a software on the examiner's computer that protects any devices plugged into it from being altered. Write blockers cannot currently be used during mobile forensics due to the forensic software needing that write capabilities on smartphones. The forensic tools basically run on the device themselves in order to access as much data on the device as possible. If a write blocker was used during a mobile collection, the collection would simply fail. Write blockers will and should be used always in forensic examinations of other devices like computers, hard drives, and external drives. Next is coordination and strategy. This starts all the way in the beginning of the process between the examiner, the client, and the owner of the device. The examiner needs to coordinate with the client in order to get the device, discuss timing of the collection and return, what the client needs preserved and analyzed, what format they'd like the extraction of the data in, and the return of the device to the custodian or client. It is very common to have many meetings or calls in order to coordinate and discuss strategy, as well as filling in the client throughout the process. Ensuring the client gets exactly what they request is a main goal of a forensic examiner. Reporting can be the most crucial step in the forensic process. All findings, processes, steps, tools, and details should be included within the forensic report. Most often, a forensic report is not needed, since a lot of the forensic work is just the preservation and extraction of data for review. Reports are crucial, though, in an analysis of the data, if an analysis of the data is required, and an expert testimony is needed. The next best practice involves the returning of the devices to either the client or the custodian, aka the owner of the device. Ensuring the device is returned in a safe and timely manner is important, especially since most people need their electronic devices for their everyday lives. Workflow and best practices go hand in hand. since best practices are imperative during the forensic workflow. We start on the left at the planning stage. This encompasses the beginning communications and coordinations. Next is the collection. Receiving the device and documentation are included within this step. Preservation comes next. Preservation is creating a forensically sound copy of the device. This copy is what we perform the next two steps on, analysis and extraction. Analysis will encompass any type of examination of the data preserved. Extraction is the pulling of the data, whether all of it or just pieces, to a format that is ready for review. The final step in the process is the return of the device. Let's take a closer look at the preservation itself. Creating the initial preservation of a mobile device typically takes between 2 and 4 hours. This time is fully dependent on the physical size of the phone, as well as how much data is stored on it. The size of mobile devices continues to increase over time, making the preservation time increase as well. If a device is received early in the day for any type of forensic work, it can be returned after the preservation is complete, and that preservation has been QC'd to ensure that it completed successfully. At Lexby, if we receive a device via FedEx or UPS, we can usually have a 24 to 48 hour return time and can have it shipped back to the client for next day delivery. We often get asked about remote preservation capabilities. Unfortunately, it is not yet possible to remotely preserve a mobile device. There are a few alternatives though, and they are not as good as getting the device itself and having the forensic examiner preserve it in person. Cloud computing has made it possible to have a lot of the data that's on your phone also on the cloud. This data can be preserved remotely by accessing the service and pulling the data with our forensic tools. Mobile device backups like iTunes backups, iCloud backups, and Google or Android backups can be created by the owner of the device and either saved locally on their computer, or saved in the cloud. Backups are a great alternative if the phone itself cannot be handed over for preservation, but the biggest issues are depending on the custodian to properly create that backup, and that everything needed was backed up and that nothing was altered or the backup that they generated. It is always best to have any device that needs to be preserved to be done physically by a forensic specialist. Now let's take a look at the chain of custody form. These forms come in all different formats depending on who created them, but they should all have the same general information within them. The chain of custody will detail the device itself, including the make, model, and serial number, and any other identifying information. COCs can include preservation information, including the start and stop times of the preservation and what tool was used. Any case information may also be included. The most crucial part of the COC is the signatures and dates and times. This part shows who had possession of the device, on what days, and at what times. Anytime the device is transferred between parties or individuals during the process, there should be a transfer line added and signed. This includes the transfer of the device between individuals within the forensic preservation stages and when the device is stored in a secure location during off hours. Here we are looking at a brief timeline of the mobile device and smartphone world. From the first official mobile device created in 1973, the first smartphone in 1994, and the iPhone's debut in 2005. It's truly amazing how much has changed in just the last 16 years since we first set our eyes on the iPhone, which arguably changed the course of society. Now we have unlimited amounts of information, entertainment, and communication mediums literally in the palm of our hands, something that was unimaginable not very long ago. Here we can see the incredible growth of smartphone users, tripling since 2012. Almost half of the world's population has a smartphone now. Another incredible feat for something that wasn't widely used until the turn of the century. Next, we see how the smartphone ecosystem looks. As of 2020, over 70% of all smartphone users have a phone with an Android operating system. This is due to Android being an open source OS that many smartphone producers can easily integrate into their own devices. It's also due to Android devices coming in many budget-friendly options, all the way up to the high end with top features. Apple's iOS comes in next with about 20% of the market. Since Apple does not have an open source OS, only Apple devices run that operating system, limiting the availability to only those willing to pay more premium prices. The final two main operating systems you may encounter include Windows Mobile OS and BlackBerry's OS. Neither of these phones or operating systems are in production anymore, but they were much less rare 10 to 20 years ago. So these may pop up every now and then if older devices lying around need to be preserved and examined. There are some other operating systems for smartphones out there, but they are incredibly rare to come by. Before getting into the details of mobile forensics, I'd like to talk about some challenges we come across. First, which is directly in line with what we just talked about, is the ever-growing smartphone market. Since new devices and updated operating systems are coming out constantly, forensic tools need to continuously work on updating their software to accommodate the ability to preserve them properly as well as decode the preserved data correctly. Along with these tools needing to be updated, forensic examiners need to keep up on those new devices and OSs to be able to properly analyze that data. Encryption and security is very important to everyone who owns a phone. Smartphone manufacturers highlight their device security at their events and have made it one of their top priorities when developing new devices and software. With better security comes the challenge of accessing the phone's data for examination. This is another area companies like Cellebrite and Magnet Forensics work constantly to overcome in order for data from mobile devices to be properly extracted and as completely as possible. The physical data size of smartphones has been a challenge as well. Every year we get new phones with bigger available storage options than the last. With bigger storage sizes comes more data on the phone, which in turn means more data to collect, making the examination process take more and more time. We are continuously working on solutions to these hurdles, specifically forensic software companies and their work on their software to keep up, and also training courses for forensic examiners being updated to train us in new technologies and examination techniques. Most forensic software companies offer training and certification in their tools, updating their training curriculum as the field changes. Cellebrite, one of the leading mobile device forensic softwares, supports over 12,000 different mobile devices. As you can see in these screen captures, a lot of these mobile manufacturers are probably unrecognizable to you, like they are to me. The great thing is, with the ability to preserve and examine such a huge variety of smartphones and even old brick or flip phones, the odds of coming across a device that can't be examined is very slim. A lot of these manufacturers can be much more popular outside of the US, so having all of these options is amazing. Once a manufacturer is selected, you can then narrow it down by model. For instance, if you select Apple, then select the iPhone 12 Max, say, which can be further narrowed down to the specific model number, since a lot of phones that look like they are they're under one model, could be under an even more specific one. Celebrite also allows you to auto-detect the device and will choose the correct one based on what's connected to the examiner's computer. Finally, you can use their search function to locate the phone based on a model number or name. There are a few different preservation or extraction methods, including physical, logical, file system, and SIM card. Here we can see a few examples of the differences between the main three methods. Physical extraction is the number one best kind. This is a bit-for-bit preservation of a mobile device, which includes the unallocated or unused space of the phone. Unallocated space is where, if not overwritten, deleted data can be found. We will discuss deleted data in a little bit. Unfortunately, as smartphone security grows, physical extraction capabilities shrink. In order to perform a physical extraction, access to the device's internal memory is needed. These security measures made by the smartphone's manufacturers do not allow tools to access everything needed for this type of extraction, making this type of extraction unsupported by forensic tools for more recent devices. A logical extraction will pull the user data, which includes text messages, call logs, videos, photos, and pretty much what the user can see or access on their device. This is the quickest collection method, but will pull the least amount of data. The file system extraction gets the files embedded in the memory of the device, as well as retrieving the artifacts within the logical extraction. It can also get hidden system files and databases on the phone that the user does not normally have access to, but contains some very vital information. An advanced logical is basically an extraction that combines the logical and the file system data, making this type second best only to the physical extraction. The advanced logical extraction has become the standard for iOS and Android devices. You can also extract data from SIM cards. Even though not much data can be found on the SIM, user and network information can be obtained. Older SIM cards used to store user data like call logs and contacts. Manual collection is the very last resort if no other collection method is working. This is literally using a camera to take pictures of the screen of the phone. It is very time consuming and not forensically sound, but if there is no other way to get the data, a manual collection will have to suffice. Now let's look at what can be extracted from a phone. There is so much information on the devices today that it's hard to get a clear picture of everything on it. The vital data about the device itself will get pulled. This includes all the identifying information about the phone, like model, serial number, IMEI, and phone number. It will also display setting information such as if cloud backup and Find My are turned on, location information, time zone settings, and the message retention policy of the device, which is the setting to delete messages after a certain time frame if it's turned on or not. As for the actual content of the phone, so much can be discovered about the user and what they did on the device. All of the applications they used, calendar entries, call data. You can view and analyze the photos, videos, audio files, and other documents saved on the phone. Crucial information such as location data, search and web history, and even account logging credentials are made available for analysis. And of course, maybe the number one requested data set can be viewed and analyzed, which is messages. This will also break down messages and other artifacts by apps or other categories. So if WhatsApp messages are what need to be looked at, these tools will have them readily grouped and available for review. Here's another view of the extracted data within Celebrate. I can select one of the main categories and analyze that data within it. One of my favorite features is Timeline View. This view breaks down all of the device's activity from every category of data and sorts it into a timeline. This is great for examinations that are focused on specific days or timeframes. This view and feature can show that person X sent a text at 1 p.m. on the 4th, connected to the Wi-Fi at this location at 1:02, and then search the web for such and such at 1:03. You can break down the time frame to smaller chunks for analysis, or like we see here, view everything on the device from its lifetime, plus some, since it will show data on the phone that existed beforehand. Like if you save the picture that was created in 2010, it will be part of the earlier part of the timeline. Messages and chats can be sent or received from such a large variety of different applications. Since tools like Celebrate break it down by app, it can become a lot easier to find the specific message you're looking for. Within the tools, messages are grouped by conversations. So a conversation between John and Ann will be separated from a conversation that's between John, Ann, and Tom. Conversations can be sorted and searched by participant, time frame, and even by keyword. This is great when looking for a specific topic within thousands of messages. Conversations are displayed very similarly to how we see them on the phone itself in the classic bubble view. This helps easily display the chat, identifying which party sent which text and at which time, and includes any attachments such as photos and the metadata for every piece along the way. This brings us to the next topic, metadata. Metadata is, simply put, data about data. No matter the file type, there will always be some form of metadata within that file, though the amount of metadata varies between different files. Very useful and even crucial evidence can be discovered. Information on the file's creation, modification, author, when it was last accessed, and the size of the file are pieces of metadata within that file. This information is helpful in creating a timeline of events, finding when a document originated, what the hash value of the document is, and what type of file you're examining. The hash value is an especially important part of metadata, given that this string of numbers and letters is essentially the fingerprint of the file. This value can be used in distinguishing two similar files from one another or proving that two files are the same. If the content of a file gets altered, the hash value gets altered. The hash can prove very valuable in cases where suspected IP theft is involved. Comparing the known hash value of the source file to a suspect's collected devices in order to confirm or deny that theft of any documents is a great example of where hash values and hash analysis come in handy. The examination of deleted data is tricky in today's mobile forensic world. As I mentioned before, deleted data resides within the unallocated or free space of a smartphone. In order to collect that space of a device, a physical extraction needs to be performed. Due to mobile device manufacturers essentially limiting any type of access to that space, a physical extraction is not possible, and therefore recovery of deleted data can't happen. Since older devices don't have these limitations, a physical extraction can occur, and the recovery of deleted data is possible there. When a file is deleted, the space on the device is freed up for new data. The deleted data will stay on that device until it is overwritten. It's much more likely to recover data that has been deleted recently, since there has been less time for that data to be replaced. Partial recovery of deleted data is possible, since new data may not completely overwrite that old data. In these cases, not all of the metadata will be present, so metadata or contents of the data will be lost. The reporting stage of the forensic process occurs towards the end after the collection, preservation, and analysis is complete. A forensic report will provide a complete picture of the entire examination from beginning to end. Reports are normally only requested if an analysis of the data occurs. All of the information about that device, software used during the examination, and supporting evidence will be included within the report. There isn't a standard format of forensic reports, but they should all include the same information about the case and analysis. Forensic software tools sometimes have a reporting feature, which will take whichever evidentiary information you'd like and generate a report. The forensic examiner can use this to build the rest of their report around. In terms of review, data from a collection can be exported into a number of different formats. A PDF can be great for the review of text messages, providing all of the metadata as well as the contents of the conversations. An Excel report for a large amount of data for easy sorting and filtering, or an HTML report for easy viewing of all relevant information and contents. The native files will be exported along with these file types for cross-referencing and viewing. Now we come to the data load file. Relatively recently, some forensic tools like Celebrate have introduced the ability to export a data load file. This provides the useful ability to easily transfer data from a forensic preservation to an eDiscovery review platform for review. All of the information necessary for review is included within the load file, and once uploaded, review can be performed of the relevant evidence. These load files integrate perfectly with Lexby and other review platforms. This brings us to the end of our discussion on smartphone forensics. Some key points I'd like for you to remember include what mobile device forensics is, which is a subset of digital forensics pertaining to the acquisition, preservation, and analysis of mobile devices. There are many different mobile devices out there, obviously, and a lot of those, are unheard of here in the US. Android and iOS are the two main operating systems for smartphones on the market. The different mobile forensic extraction types include logical, file system, physical, advanced logical, and manual. So much data can be extracted from a phone, and forensic tools do a great job at ingesting the data and sorting it for analysis. Metadata is data about data, and all files have it. Deleted data cannot always be recovered, especially from newer devices. And finally, reporting, which is the final step of the process, detailing everything that occurred during the examination. I'd like to thank you all for your time today. Now, passing it back to Jeff.
Thanks, Nick. That was a fascinating presentation. So I'm going to briefly walk you through how Lexby helps boutique firms address the issues of eDiscovery in a COVID world. One of the great aspects of the time that we live in is that there is absolutely no need to have large, expensive in-house technology infrastructure for eDiscovery. Broadband is almost ubiquitous, and the cloud not only delivers massive computing and storage capabilities for a fraction of the price, but it is also highly secure. With Lexby's cloud-based eDiscovery platform hosted at Amazon Web Services, you get on-demand capabilities that equip you with superior technology that hyperscales on demand when you need it, without the huge expense of dedicated technology and big law infrastructure. The cloud more than levels the playing field for boutique firms handling document-intensive cases. With Lexibee's cloud infrastructure, you can get from document ingestion to review faster, and you get your productions out the door faster. You can enable all of your mobile connected employees that are working from home to access the Lexibee eDiscovery platform to work on their matters and not miss a beat during the COVID pandemic. On this slide, I wanted to point out that Lexibee is truly end-to-end eDiscovery in a single cloud-based platform. We engineered our own processing engine, and most eDiscovery platforms don't have a processing engine fully integrated. So with other solutions, you've got to move data around from one platform to another. With Lexibee, it's fully integrated. So you don't have to use another party to get that done. In addition, we have AI-powered analytics and TAR that a lot of eDiscovery companies outsource to another third party, but not us. We deliver a seamless and highly efficient experience. Now I'm going to talk to you about the Lexibee Uber Index. When we process documents, we extract the native characters and the metadata. We generate a normalized PDF and perform optical character recognition, or OCR, and extract those characters. We also OCR all images and incorporate translated characters into a single concatenated, what we call Uber Index, which is lightning fast. You can also seamlessly add documents without having to re-index the entire data set, unlike many other eDiscovery solutions. One of our clients the other day told us that they had transitioned to us from another eDiscovery provider because it took over 48 hours for them to gain access to their matter again because they had to re-index when they added documents to a particular case. With Lexibee, you won't have that kind of downtime when you add documents to your matter. Lexibee transcription, I wanted to touch on this briefly. Certainly with the growth of Zoom calls and other web conferencing services, we're seeing a lot more recordings in matters, and with Lexibee's transcription capabilities, you can easily incorporate these files into your review workflow. Our artificial intelligence engine will go through the transcription process and identify speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, and also help you understand exactly where on the audio track the evidence resides. So it makes it very simple and seamless to manage. Lexibee AI, so artificial intelligence, it's a term that's thrown around a lot. And here you'll see applications of artificial intelligence within the Lexibee eDiscovery platform. Our advanced AI capabilities deliver really high quality results, including transcription, translation, sentiment analysis, cognitive image recognition, entity identification, and more. So we utilize a wide range of AI algorithms that perform a bunch of complex tasks and help you get through your review faster. And those are included in the eDiscovery platform and fully integrated, and again, not from a third party. Now, a little bit about Lexibee pricing. I'm going to share with you an example of our best-in-class pricing versus a competitive bid that one of our customers received. We've purpose-built the Lexibee eDiscovery platform to take full advantage of the incredible efficiencies that the cloud has to offer, and we pass those savings on to you. With Lexibee, you don't pay for processing versus what you can see here. Relativity Reseller was charging $125 per gig for processing. So with Lexibee, you pay $0 for processing. With Lexibee, you pay $0 for user fees. You can have unlimited users in the Lexibee eDiscovery platform, and it won't cost you anything more. With Relativity, with this particular reseller, they're charging $95 per user per month. That's a monthly recurring charge that you would incur. And then for technology-assisted review, near duplication, or email threading, you don't have to pay the $30 per gig premium that you do with Relativity in this case. With Lexibee, that's included in the Lexibee eDiscovery platform in your monthly hosting subscription fee. And here, the Relativity reseller was selling hosting at $8 per gig per month. With Lexby, it's $5 per gig per month. So with Lexby, you don't pay for processing, you don't pay for user fees, you don't pay for advanced analytics. You simply pay $5 per gig per month for a hosting subscription starting at 50 gigs. This was an example of pricing that one of our clients received from a Relativity reseller, and we saved our client thousands and thousands of dollars on this particular matter. So if you're paying more than $5 per gig per month for eDiscovery, then you're missing out on the great efficiencies the cloud has to offer. And with that, I'll ask our last polling question, and that is, would you like a demo of the Lexby eDiscovery platform? Thank you for attending today's session. We'll be making the following available to webinar attendees. You'll receive a recorded streaming version, an MP3 podcast, as well as PDF slides. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments about this webinar or suggestions for future topics. This webinar is part of the Lexby eDiscovery webinar series. For notices of future live and on-demand events, as part of this series, please email us at webinars@lexby.com or follow us on LinkedIn. And I'd also like to thank Nick again for his presentation today. It was fantastic. And I thank all of you for attending. Please watch your inbox for an invite to our next webinar on best practices in eDiscovery. Take care.